in forensic science investigation. You remember?
Correct.
What you didn't tell us is about your experience, how many years you've been in the South African Police Service. If you could give us a bit of an idea, please.
My lord, I joined the South African Police Force in 1984. I then left the police force in 1989 to study a BCom degree. From there, I joined the police in 1991, and I've been there ever since. So it's 37 years.
37 years. So it's fair to say that you are a very experienced police officer.
I would hope so, my lord.
Yes. Now, yesterday, you said in response to a question about Ms. Chilota's role in the asbestos investigation, that through your engagements with the prosecutor and the investigator, there was evidence that she was implicated in the matter and that she testified at the Zondo Commission. Do you remember saying that?
That is correct.
Yes. And you also said there were emails sent from her work in a private email.
That is correct.
Now, you also said that the criminal investigation, which is obviously why we're here today, the criminal trial, and this is a trial within the trial, was independent of the Zondo Commission. Do you remember that?
That is correct.
Yes. My lord, I beg leave to hand up, as will become Exhibit 17 by my count, the front page of the C-clip, the investigation diary. We can mark this Exhibit 17. General, are you familiar with this document?
I am, my lord.
And the first entry, 10 October 2019, could you read that into record for us, please?
Captain Carlett's inquiry file in relation to the asbestos matter in the Free State for your attention and further investigation. A meeting has been set up with Mr. Lamprecht. Please make contact with Advocate Hershenson. Access the official Zondo Commission website and look for the asbestos matter. Draw the relevant statements from the website and make follow-up investigations. Please make this case a priority matter. SIU has a proclamation on the matter. Please engage Mr. Greg Hunter. Cell phone number on the matter, and then brought forward 2014.
And it's signed by you, General.
That is correct.
As you Ms. Charlotta was an implicated person. Do you remember that?
That is correct, my lord.
Yes, and this you established through your engagements with the prosecutor and the investigating officer.
That is correct, my lord.
And you established this through your oversight role.
That is correct, my lord.
Yes. So an implicated person means someone who is involved in a crime. Would you agree with that?
That is correct, my lord.
Another word for someone who is involved in a crime or suspected to be involved in a crime is a suspect. Do you agree with that?
That is correct, my lord.
Yes. But you saw her as a state witness.
That is correct, my lord.
Yourself, Mr. Donation, and Captain Karlitz.
That is correct.
Yes. All right. Now, there's an Exhibit 9 file that should be in front of you. I'm going to ask my learned friend if she could please assist me with the file. And we're going to go to Annexure PQ.
The whole process.
What was the date of
13 November 2020, my lord. General, if you can't recall hearing it, I think it's fair to say you are aware of what the bail conditions were, correct?
I don't recall in detail, but yes, I am sure I would be aware if it is just said to me again.
Okay, let me assist you. Now, if you look on this page, there's an email from you to Ms. Charlotta dated 16 November 2020.
That is correct, my lord.
I'd like you to read that email into record, please.
On Monday, November 16, 2020 at 7:30, Free State Provincial Organized Crime Information, my email address, wrote, "Good day, Ms. Charlotta. I am sure by now that you have been informed of the arrest of Mr. Magashule on the above matter. You are hereby informed that you will be called as a state witness in the criminal trial. As such, you are not to be in contact with Mr. Magashule or his attorneys. You are also not to be approached by Mr. Magashule or his attorneys, in brackets set as a bail condition, directly or indirectly. Failing to adhere to this may have serious implications. You will be contacted in due course by the investigating officer. If you need any clarity, please feel free to contact me via email. Are you intending to return to the RSA anytime soon? ? If so, please advise me of the date so that we can set up a meeting with you. Regards."
Yes.
And then my details.
Yes. So now that you've read the email, you'll know that part of the bail conditions were that Ms. Charlotta was not to be in contact with Mr. Magashule and the attorneys.
That is correct, my lord.
Yes. Now, it's very peculiar for a bail condition to be imposed that someone cannot contact attorneys. Do you agree with that?
I don't think this is a general exclusion. This was just a specific exclusion for the attorneys of Mr. Magashule.
Yes. Now, the point I'm trying to get from you, General, is it's peculiar. It's not something we see every day when we talk about bail conditions, that someone can't make contact with attorneys. Do you agree with it?
I've already answered that, my lord.
All right. Well, I want to say to you that the reason that imposition was imposed on Ms. Charlotta is because you knew that Ms. Charlotta and Mr. Magashule shared the same attorneys.
I was not aware of that fact at that stage, my lord.
Okay. Let's continue in this email trail, and then we're going to come back to that very question shortly. If you go just above, sir, could you read the email of 17 November at 8:04?
It says, on Tuesday, November 17, 2020 at 8:04 a.m., Moradi Charlotta, her email address, wrote, "Good morning, and I first learned about it through the media that I'm a state witness. While the content of your email is noted, I will be waiting for further communication. I have not yet planned my next visit to the RSA. Regards, Nomalanga Moradi Selina Charlotta."
Yes. Now, if we just go back to the email at the bottom, you say, failing to adhere to this may have serious implications. That's in respect of not approaching or not communicating with Mr. Magashule or his attorneys. Do you see that?
I see that, my lord.
So, you were threatening her, General.
I don't think it's a threat, my lord. It's an indication that she's not to contact the attorneys of Mr. Magashule.
What were the serious implications going to be?
I'm not too sure what that could be, my lord. So I don't really have an answer to that question.
But
It
General,
depends on what the engagements with Ms. Charlotta and the attorneys of Mr. Magashule would be, because I think there would be a serious conflict there if she does that.
But you must know what the serious implications are. Whatever the nature of the contact is, you are saying there will be serious implications. So you must take us into your confidence. What did you mean by that?
My lord, I can honestly not say that what my intentions were to what implications I was implying on, so I don't have any malice intent when I wrote the email to her in that regard.
Okay. Let's go to the next email. You've read the previous one. Sorry, before we move off this one. So, Ms. Charlotta says to you, I first learned about it through the media, that I'm a state witness. Now, when this announcement was made at court on the 13th of November 2020, that the bail condition was that Ms. Charlotta and Mr. Magashule were not to have contact, and nor were the attorneys. She wasn't made aware of that at the time, on the 13th of November. Would you agree?
I would agree to that, my lord.
So who decided that she is a state witness, General?
It was in consultation with the prosecutors.
And not in consultation with Ms. Charlotta?
Not at that stage, no.
So it was thrust upon her. She was told she will be a state witness.
If you put it that way, yes.
Let's go to the next email, please, General. It's on the 17th of November, again from Ms. Charlotta. If you wouldn't mind reading that into record for us, please.
Good day. It comes from Moradi Charlotta, sent on Tuesday, November 17, 2020, 3:17 p.m. to FS Provincial Organized Crime Information. That is my email address, Captain Carlitz, Advocate Denason, and then the subject is Asbestos Investigation, State versus Mogesi and others. Good day. Also, please assist my ignorance. I Do I understand you to be saying that I have not agreed to be a state witness in this, or at least submit an affidavit before, meaning you or anyone in the police or NPA have not spoken to me before? I am struggling with your email when you say that I'm hereby informed that I will be called as a state witness without you even telling me what I will witness about. At least you can be courteous and tell me what I will witness about. I feel it was unfair to me when the prosecutor announced in court and in front of TV cameras that I'm a state witness without my knowledge. I have understood in the media, at least, that the case relates to the publicized Asbestos contract before I contacted your office via email. I am confused because as a PA in the Premier's office, I was nowhere near SCM of departments or the Department of HS. I feel like you are ordering me to be a witness on something that I have no intimate knowledge about. This is seriously worrying to me, and I don't feel safe anymore, especially since I was also visited by the FBI here in the USA. Please don't confuse my ignorance with reluctance to assist my own country in an investigation, but I feel that you should have had the courtesy to consult with me before you went public on a contract that I still do not have details on. Seeing that I have not made an affidavit to the police since the contract was awarded, and I don't know how I fit into this contract or any one of them for that matter, I would appreciate if your investigation officer or you can send me information that shows my relevance or what you will want me to be a state witness about in this asbestos investigation, and dates and times of my involvement.
Before you go any further, I noticed that it is extremely hard here.
Yes, my lord.
Can somebody do something about it? Most of the time I tend to be told, but today, just give my secretary the opportunity to do something about it.
Can we take 5 minutes? I'll just sit down. Is that fine? We won't adjourn. I'll just sit down.
He's going to operate that system there against the wall. Thank you. Are you ready?
Yes, my lord. Thank you, General. If you could continue on the next page, please.
Because I am now anxious about this issue now even circulating in the media before it was discussed with me, and as you offered, please assist me with relevant information and clarity so I can prepare myself before I meet with the investigation officer. As always, your speedy response will be highly appreciated.
Yes. Now, General, we're going to spend a bit of time on this email. So this was a response to you. You agree with that?
Yes.
Now, a common theme in Ms. Charlotta's email is her asking for information. Would you agree with that?
That is correct, my lord.
Yes. And she goes so far to say, please provide me with the information so that I can prepare before we meet. Do you see that?
I see that, my lord.
Yes. And we know that that didn't happen. You agree with that?
That is correct, my lord.
Yes.
What did it happen? The info?
The provision of information before a meeting. Yes, my lord. What we also know is that the lines of communication were open between you and Ms. Charlotta. Would you agree with that?
That is correct, my lord.
Yes. And yet, when you go to America, you don't email her and you don't send her any information beforehand. You agree with that?
I agree with that.
Yes. And so, when you met her, she could not be prepared. You agree with that?
I agree with that, my lord.
Yes. Now, what she also says in this email is that She feels unsafe because the FBI had visited her in the US. Do you see that?
I see that, my lord.
Now, the FBI had already located her, General. They already knew her whereabouts.
That is correct, my lord.
So, in 2021 September, there was no need for them to surveil her and track her whereabouts once again. Your comment?
I think it was necessary to confirm anybody can move within a period of that extent, and it was just to confirm that she's still at the address where she is.
I see. And so, General, in the ordinary course, you conduct surveillance on state witnesses?
My lord, I do not know if it was surveillance or just a verification. I cannot comment on what the FBI did in America, my lord.
General, I'm putting to you that she was under surveillance. This was put to Captain Kalitz. He didn't dispute it. And there are documents in the file, I'm not going to troll through it and take you there now, that confirm that she was under surveillance by the FBI. Are you in a position to dispute
My
that?
lord, I cannot comment on that.
Okay. Now, you could also find out where she is by sending her an email before your visit, because the lines of communication were open between the two of you, correct?
That's correct, my lord.
And Captain Kalitz confirmed this, but it's clear that insofar as the DPCI is concerned, you were the person who had engaged with her previously, correct?
That is correct, my lord.
You also said that Captain Kalitz had questions prepared beforehand, before the trip to the USA, correct?
That is correct, my lord.
Why didn't you provide the questions to Ms. Charlotta to prepare?
We wanted to do it face to face, my lord.
You wanted to prepare her face to face.
No, we wanted to give her the questions face to face.
I see. And wouldn't it have been more beneficial for your investigation to engage with someone who's prepared and has the information to hand?
Not necessary, my lord. If as I indicated earlier, on a face-to-face meeting and obtaining of a statement and providing, you will get the necessary statement from such a person firsthand.
Okay. We're going to get to the events of the 22nd and 23rd of September, excuse me, in a short bit. But General, I've given you some dates earlier. We know that Ms. Charlotta appeared at state capture in December 2019. You recall that?
That is correct, my lord.
And the events at issue that you were going to ask her about in September 2021 concerned events that had taken place in 2014 and 2015, correct?
Yes, my lord.
Yes. So it was unreasonable of you to assume that arriving there unannounced, she would have all the information and be able to answer all your questions at the drop of a hat. Your comment?
No, my lord, I don't think so. We would have provided her with the documents and the information so that she could go through them and then give us an answer in that respect.
I see. And yesterday you confirmed that no documents were put in front of her?
We did not get to that point, my lord.
Okay, that's another point I'm going to come back to. You're not getting to the point of putting documents in front of Ms. Charlotta. If you can just make a note to come back there. Now, yesterday you said that the FBI assisted to locate Ms. Charlotta because you wanted to make sure that she was available. Do you remember saying that?
That's correct, my lord.
And you also said that it would be a waste of state resources to go all the way there and her perhaps being sick or unavailable. Do you remember that?
That's correct, my lord.
Yes. Now, how was the FBI going to make sure that she wasn't sick when you arrived?
My lord, I don't know how they will make sure of that, unfortunately.
Okay. Now, we know that on the morning of the 22nd of September, you left en route to Ms. Chilota's place of residence when it was still dark.
That's correct, my lord.
And we know that you got there relatively early outside Ms. Chilota's residence, correct?
That's correct, my lord.
What time, more or less, if you could remind me?
My lord, that's very difficult to say, but I think it should have been somewhere past 7.
Past 7. According to Captain Karlitz, it was around 8 o'clock. What do you say about that?
I don't have comment on that, my lord.
All right. And you waited in the vehicle, correct?
That is correct, my lord.
And Ms. Chilota came out with the FBI.
That is correct, my lord.
Now, I want to talk about the FBI making Ms. Chilota available. Because remember, you said you used the FBI to make sure that, or to mitigate her being sick and her being unavailable. Now, I want to put to you that the FBI ensured that she was available by ambushing her at a place of residence while she was still asleep. Your comment?
I disagree, my lord.
Why do you disagree?
Because it was no ambush. They went to the door, they knocked on the door like any normal person would do, and Mechalota came out, and they had a conversation, and they went into her premises.
But they're not normal people, are they? They're the FBI,
They
generally.
are the FBI, I agree, my lord.
Yes. And the person on whose door they are knocking is a black female foreigner in the USA, correct?
I don't see the relevance of the race in it, my lord, but yes,
But that's who she is, General. You can't shy away from that, correct?
that's correct. If I recall as well, there was a black American FBI agent as well, my lord.
Okay, good to know. Now, how long did it take before they came out of the apartment?
My lord, it could be anything from 15 minutes onwards. I don't think it was much longer than that.
15 minutes. So 15 minutes from the knock at the door and them coming out, or they went inside for 15
No,
minutes?
from the time they entered, my lord, more or less 15 minutes, I would
15
assume.
minutes. Now that's a very short space of time, would you agree, General?
It is, my lord.
For someone to simply agree and go along with the FBI. Would you agree?
I would not necessarily agree with that, my lord. I think 15 minutes is a long time.
It's a long time. Now you heard at the interview that she hadn't had an opportunity to wash herself.
That is correct, my lord.
So are you telling us that you honestly believed that early in the morning Ms. Chilota was just sitting there ready and waiting for your arrival?
I never indicated such, my lord.
Yes. So when you say she came out and she was very presentable, that was
My lord,
because...
If at this juncture this aspect has been canvassed at, or should have been canvassed at length, we have had this discussion before, this is taking this argument no further with regards to the actual jurisdictional element which we are here within the trial, within the trial. This is also all relating to Mechalota. We have got no indication of how this affects their client before the court at this stage. My lord, we are dragging this particular point very laboriously.
Yes, it may be so, but on the other hand, the treatment and how she ended up as a suspect or an accused may be relevant. I'm not saying it will be, but it may be relevant to the question whether extradition was lawful. So I will allow these questions, but keep it short and don't labor the issue for the rest of the day, please.
No, my lord, I'll keep it short and sharp, and I'm going to move on shortly. Okay. General, I want to say to you that Ms. Chilota was afraid. She told you in November 2020 already that she was afraid when the FBI came to visit her. You recall that?
I don't think she said she was afraid of the FBI.
Unsafe. She felt unsafe. Take your time. Go through the email, General. Go through the email.
This is seriously worrying to me, and I don't feel safe anymore, especially since I was also visited by the FBI here in America. She does not say she was afraid of the FBI. It was just because of the visit and that it is public domain now.
Well, she says she's feeling unsafe after the visit by the... So this is seriously worrying to me, and I don't feel safe anymore, especially since I was also visited by the FBI. You see that?
I see that, my lord.
Yes. So as early as 2020, she felt unsafe. And what I want to say to you is when the FBI arrived unannounced on the morning of 22 September 2021 and told her to come outside so that you could speak to her, she was afraid then. Are you in a position to dispute that?
My lord, I disagree. I don't know what her feelings were at that stage, but the way she was handled, the way she was treated by the FBI, I don't think it could have invoked any sense of fear with her.
If you don't know her feelings, General, how can you dispute that she was afraid?
My lord, if I may also object at this stage, as there's still no version from Major Law to specifically put that it was her feelings. We are now having a version put by different counsel that would not have had this opportunity to even have raised this with Major Law. This version itself is not in her own version. With the email, it might be one thing. However, with regards to the FBI arriving on the scene itself, this particular version has not been put to say it is Major Law's version, as it is with all due respect.
My lord, my learned friend, Ms. Macapella, took the previous witness through an open letter from Ms. Charlotta. She tested that version with Captain Karlitz, where she indeed recorded that she was afraid. That statement is here, and if needs be, I'll go through it. But that version is certainly not a new version. It's traversed across all of the affidavits, and it was laid in the court, my lord. So if I could beg leave to proceed.
Yes, well, in relation to that issue, the witness has responded by saying he disagrees.
Yes, I'll move on, my
He
lord.
can't be. Yes.
I'll move on. I'll move on. General, you wanted the FBI to knock on the door because you were concerned that Ms. Charlotta would not engage with you. Your comment?
Just repeat the question, my lord.
You wanted the FBI to go to Ms. Charlotta's residence and knock on her door, tell her to come with you to meet you, because you were concerned that she wouldn't engage with you. Your comment?
No, my lord, it's because we do not have any jurisdiction in America, and we were requested by the FBI not to accompany them to the door.
You don't have jurisdiction in the U.S., and I'm not suggesting that you do, but you could have arranged this visit, General. We know that. The lines of communication were open. You've admitted that, correct?
That's correct, my lord.
Yeah. Now, you were concerned about state resources. And you also said that Ms. Charlotta apparently didn't have to go with the FBI. Do you remember that?
I do, my lord.
Yes, but if you arrive unannounced and she then refused to go with you, we know that didn't happen, but she refused to go with you, that would have been a waste of state resources, General.
Well, we're
Go
making
all the way
assumptions
there.
now, my lord, so I cannot comment on that, my
I'm
lord.
putting a hypothetical to you, and I'd like you to answer the question.
I cannot give a response to that, my lord, because it did not happen.
That's fine. Now let's go to back into this file, please. Oh, my apologies. Before we move off here, there's one further email at the top of Ms. Charlotta's email. It's from Mr. Donation. Could you please read that into record for us?
From Johannes M. Donation, sent Wednesday, 18 November 2020, 0816 to Morwari Charlotta, FS Provincial Crime Information, FS DPCI Karlitz, Navila Samaru, subject Asbestos Investigation, State versus Mogesi and others. Good morning, at least it is morning in South Africa. You have submitted affidavits and have testified before the Commission. I am satisfied with your version. There are only a few aspects that I want to clarify with you. We shall get to that as soon as we meet. Precisely when, I cannot say now, as it has not been determined yet. So at this stage, to answer your question, you will basically be required to testify to what you have stated in your evidence before the Commission, read together with your affidavits. The attorney of Mr. Magashule sent us a letter a while back indicating that he is representing both you and Magashule. Since the latter is now an accused, there cannot, as dictated by law, be contact between the two of you or between his attorney and you or by anyone acting on behalf of the accused or his attorney. They were under the impression that you were a future accused, which position I had to address in court. I also had to put it clearly on record that you are a witness for the state and requested the court to note a bail condition that they not make any contact with you. Your testimony will revolve around the so-called asbestos matter. I understand your fear for having to testify about something you do not have the full details about, but please rest assured you are but one of a great number of witnesses in a much bigger picture. I will not expect you to testify about aspects that you do not have knowledge about. Pertaining to your safety, we are of the view that you are not in any danger. The assistance of the FBI was requested for the plain and simple reason to locate you and inquire from you whether you will cooperate with the SA Police and prosecution. This they did, and I was pleased to note that you had, and I believe still has, a positive attitude and that you will cooperate with us, which we appreciate. The involvement of the FBI must therefore in no way be seen as a negative towards you or your safety, but rather the contrary. I shall ask the investigators to forward your testimony and affidavits to you to refresh your memory. I trust that this mail will address your fears and any uncertainty. If there are any other questions, please feel free to contact me. Kindest regards, J.M. Donation, Office of the DPP, Free State.
Thank you, General. So, General, you recall earlier I asked you concerning your email. I said to you that you knew that Mr. Magashule and Ms. Chalotta shared the same attorneys. Here, Mr. Donation has confirmed that. So now I'm putting it to you that at the time you wrote the email of 16 November 2020, telling Ms. Chalotta that she can't make contact with her attorneys, you knew, or you ought reasonably to have known, that Mr. Magashule and her shared the same set of attorneys. Your comment?
My Lord, I can honestly not say that I was aware of that.
But you cannot dispute it either.
Yes, my Lord.
Yes. Now, in this email, Mr. Donation refers to, and I'm talking about, excuse me, the paragraph starts good morning, then it's the second paragraph thereafter. Since the latter is now an accused, referring to Mr. Magashule, there cannot, as dictated by the law, be contact between the two of you or between his attorney. Now, I want to focus on between his attorney. We know now, as a matter of fact, that they shared attorneys. Do you know which law that is, General, that dictates that?
My Lord, I was not the author of this specific email, so I cannot comment on that, my Lord.
No, that's fine. I'm not asking you to comment as an author. You're a very, very experienced police officer. You gave her the same admonition. You said yesterday you know the Constitution well. I'm asking you, are you aware of the law that restricts her from engaging with her attorneys?
My Lord, I cannot specifically say yes, because it's not in relation to all lawyers. It's in relation to a specific lawyer.
I see. You see, Mr. Donation also says here the investigators will forward your testimony and affidavits to you to refresh your memory. You see that?
I see that, my Lord.
That also never happened. You agree?
I agree, my Lord.
Mr. Donation also says that Ms. Chalotta is not a future accused. You agree with that?
I agree with that.
And here she is accused number 17.
That is correct, my Lord.
I'd like to take you to excuse me, it's before Annexure HI. Just want to find it. If you could go to Annexure G, please. General, we're not going to go through this document, but I just want to give you a broad overview before I ask you the questions. This is an affidavit which Ms. Chalotta did excuse me, in the Constitutional Court, where she applied for direct access for declaratory relief inter alia that her extradition was unlawful. Are you aware of these proceedings, General?
I am aware.
And how are you aware of these proceedings?
I was informed about them, my lord.
Informed by whom?
I think Captain Carlitz, and I had to, if my memory serves correct, I don't know if it's on this specific, I had to give a confirmatory statement in relation to Captain Carlitz's statement.
Yes, your memory is very good, General. We're going to go to your confirmatory affidavit. So, General, yesterday you told us that extradition per se doesn't fall under your oversight purview. Do I have it right?
That is correct, my lord.
But you had some knowledge about the extradition and the allegations of unlawfulness because of the court proceedings, correct?
That is correct, my lord.
Yesterday you seemed to distance yourself from the extradition proceedings. Is that fair to say?
I still do, my lord.
I see. I'm not going to take you to Ms. Chalotta's affidavit. We can go to Annexure HI, please, General. Are you there?
I am.
General, this is the answering affidavit that was filed by the state in opposition of Ms. Chalotta's application at the Constitutional Court. All right? Do you see that?
I see it.
I'd like you to page excuse me, 2 pages on, you'll find Captain Carlitz's answering affidavit. Do you see it?
I see it, my lord.
Now, you're quite right, General. You did a confirmatory affidavit, excuse me, to this answering affidavit. It is Annexure AA4, and if you keep your place on the front, but if you page just past the warning statement, you should find your confirmatory affidavit. Do you see it, General?
I see it.
Could you read your confirmatory affidavit into record for us, please?
I, the undersigned Nicolaas Jacobus Gerber, do hereby make oath and state as follows. I'm an adult male, a Major General in the South African Police Service, and currently the head of the Directorate for Priority Crime Investigation in Mpumalanga. The facts contained herein fall within my personal knowledge and are both true and correct. I have read the answering affidavit of Benjamin Friedemann Carlitz, and I am fully conversant with the contents thereof. At the relevant time, when I was involved in the investigations relating to the criminal charges against the applicant, I had the rank of a brigadier, and I was stationed in Bloemfontein as the provincial commander at serious corruption investigation of the province Free State. I confirm the correctness of the facts alleged therein and confirm the correctness of all allegations regarding me.
General, by virtue of you having signed this confirmatory affidavit, it follows that you would have read and considered Captain Carlitz's answering affidavit, correct?
That is correct, my lord.
It also follows that you would have read and considered Ms. Chalotta's affidavit, because you'd need to know what you're responding to, correct?
I do not recall that I had Ms. Chalotta's statement. I recall that I had Captain Carlitz's, and that is the confirmatory statement is based on Captain Carlitz's statement.
But General, how do you depose to an affidavit in a vacuum? Don't you acquaint yourself with what the matter is actually about? Seems strange, General. Your comment?
No, my lord, I was just asked to confirm the contents of Captain Carlitz's statement.
By whom?
And that is what I did. The State Attorney's Office, my lord.
And they didn't provide Ms. Charlotta's affidavit to you in the process?
Not that I can recall, my lord.
Okay, that's fine. Let's go back to Captain Carlitz's affidavit. We won't be coming back to your confirmatory for now. So, I'd like to start at paragraph 6, please, on page 3. If you could read paragraph 6 into record, and I'll be asking you some questions.
I set out herein the basis of the third respondent's opposition to the application pursued by Ms. Charlotta. I commence by setting out the sequence of events and facts that transpired when I, together with the then Brigadier, now Major General Nico Gerber, in brackets Brigadier Gerber, interviewed Ms. Charlotta in Baltimore, Maryland, and Washington, D.C. in the United States of America on 22 and 23 September 2021. It will emerge from such facts that Ms. Charlotta's allegations of breaches of her constitutional rights during such process and in the events leading up to and post such interviews are non-existent. She was afforded all the protections afforded to her by the Constitution.
Yes, you agreed with that because
Yes.
this version encompasses both your version under oath as well as that of Captain Carlitz. You
That is
agree?
correct, my lord.
Yes. Paragraph 8, if you could read that into record for us.
After I have covered the course of events that took place on 22 and 23 September 2021 and explained that her prosecution is not connected to any politics, I proceeded to answer Ms. Charlotta's application ad seritem.
Okay. And you agree with that? The prosecution, in your view, is not animated by any politics?
That is correct, my lord.
And the same applies, in your view, to Captain Carlitz, who you allocated this matter to?
That is correct, my lord.
And in your dealings with Advocate Donation, I would assume you held the same view concerning Mr. Donation?
That is correct, my lord.
Just give me a moment. I'd like you to proceed to paragraph 14. This is where the interview starts.
The interviews with Ms. Charlotta were arranged through Special Agent Ms. Denise Bean, in brackets Special Agent Bean of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, in brackets FBI. Special Agent Bean was at the time based in a corresponding embassy in South Africa. The FBI had previously located Ms. Charlotta in the United States, and they made arrangements for a small team to drive to her residence and escort her to attend an interview with Brigadier Gerber and I.
Yes. Now, that obviously is pretty straightforward, and I've already taken you through the emails where the FBI had located her in 2020. I'm more interested in the next bit, General. Now, I'd like us to proceed on to paragraph 21, please. If you could read that into record for us.
Brigadier Gerben and I commenced our questioning of Ms. Charlotta, and during the course thereof showed her various documents which she would have known about, most notably her emails.
But General, you told us that you never got to a stage where you showed her documents. So which version should we believe? The version you gave us yesterday, or this one under oath before the Constitutional Court?
I agree, my lord. We did not give her any documents, emails at that stage. We had not reached that point.
General, you appreciate that this version is also under oath, the one in the documents?
I do, my lord.
Okay. Just a moment for me. Let's go to paragraph 22. Could you read that into record?
At some point during the morning, her boyfriend arrived and we paused the interview for a short while she spoke to him in private. He then left and we continued questioning her. I recall asking Ms. Chilota many questions and she seldom answered them fully and completely, often questioning their relevance. All her answers were measured and careful, and it was evident that she had been taken off guard by the interview.
But General, isn't it obvious that she'd be taken off guard by the interview? You never told her that you were coming, correct?
That is correct, my lord, but I don't believe that she was taken off guard. She had the opportunity to answer questions that were based within her own knowledge, so she could have answered them directly.
But General, this is the version that you and Captain Kalitz put up, where you are saying it was evident that she had been taken off guard by the interview. You agree?
That is correct, my lord.
Let's read paragraph 23, please, and we're almost there. We're not going to spend too much time on this.
In the early afternoon, before we had finished our questions and after approximately 3 hours since we arrived at the hotel, Ms. Chilota told us she needed to leave in order to reach her university in time for her classes. We agreed but indicated that we had further questions for her, and she agreed to meet us the following morning in Washington, D.C. Between us, we agreed to pick her up at a certain train station in Washington, D.C., and we informed her that the second day of the interview would be conducted at the South African Embassy in Washington, D.C.
The fourth line of paragraph 23, where you say she needed to go to university, and we agreed, as in you and Captain Kalitz agreed, correct?
And her.
Yes, the three of you agreed.
Yes.
Yes, it means she wasn't free to leave. Your comment?
I disagree, my lord.
Why would she need your agreement to go to her classes when you'd arrived unannounced, General?
My lord, the question does not make sense, if you can rephrase.
Certainly. You arrived unannounced to interview Ms. Chilota, correct?
That is correct.
She had things to do that day. She was not expecting you, correct?
That is correct.
You and Captain Kalitz then agree with her that she can go about her daily tasks, correct?
Yes, we accommodated her that she could attend her classes.
She accommodated you, General. You didn't accommodate her. She wasn't expecting you. Your comment?
She did accommodate us, and we accommodated her respectively.
Your accommodation of her and your agreement that she could go to class demonstrates that she wasn't free to move as she wanted to.
I disagree with that totally, my lord.
It's fine. Let's go to paragraph 24. Now, yesterday you testified that at the end of the interview on the first day, Ms. Chilota was told to contact her attorneys. She was given good advice. Do you remember that?
That is correct, my lord.
Yes. And we know that that isn't apparent from the transcript, correct?
That is correct, my lord.
Let's read paragraph 24 into record.
Ms. Chilota told us that she would be contacting an attorney about the interviews, and we had no objection to that. She left the hotel in the early afternoon in her own vehicle, presumably to attend her classes in Washington, D.C.
Yes. Now, General, that's quite different, the way that's phrased there. Ms. Chilota told us she would be contacting an attorney about the interviews. That's quite different to you and Captain Kalitz telling her to contact an attorney. Do you agree?
I agree as it is phrased there, my lord.
Yes. Now, let's read 25, please.
At no stage during the course of the day on 22 September 2021 did Ms. Chilota ask for an attorney to be present. There would, of course, have been no need for her to do so, as we were interviewing her with a view to taking her statement as a witness for the state in the criminal proceedings by then already instituted in relation to the Asbestos project.
Yes. Now, General, my question is, before you go to the U.S., you've already admitted that she was a suspect. You agree with it?
No, my lord, I did not admit to that.
An implicated person.
Implicated doesn't mean that you are viewed as a suspect, my lord.
Implicated means that you're suspected of committing a crime, correct?
Implicated means that there is evidence that may indicate that you are implicated in a matter.
Okay, that sounds like semantics to me, General. But let's take what you've said. Once a person may be implicated, and we can use many wide words in the sentence, you've got a duty to warn her before you speak to a general. What is your comment?
No, my lord, the question is asked. If the question is answered, once the person only implicates herself or himself, will there be a warning that is instituted to that specific person? Because you do not know what the person's answer is going to be on something.
Even in circumstances where on your version she had already been implicated. Your comment?
Yes, even on that, my lord, because she hadn't answered to us yet.
General, let's break this up. On your version, she had already been implicated. There was evidence against her, emails. The IO and the prosecutor had discussed this with you. Do you remember that?
That is correct, my lord.
Yes, and you got the evidence from state capture, correct?
That is correct, my lord.
Yes. So there was already evidence of criminality. Do you agree with that?
I agree with that, my lord.
Yes. So before you even spoke to her on the 22nd of September, 2021, it follows that she had already, without answering any questions, you already had the evidence that implicated her in criminality, correct?
Yes, my lord, we had the evidence, but we had not put the evidence in front of her to answer on that evidence.
Yes. Just a moment for me, my lord. So, General, once you knew that, at the outset of speaking to her, you had the duty to tell her that she had the right to remain silent and she had the right to an attorney. Your comment?
I disagree, my lord. I indicated, if I recall correctly, that I did warn her that if it comes to a stage where she would be implicating herself, we would then go over to a different process. I think I did indicate Section 204.
We'll go to the transcript. I'm asking you a different question now. But that's all right. You disagree with what I'm saying.
I disagree, my lord.
Yes. Now, what I want to say to you, General, you're very experienced. You are a career policeman. You are a very high-ranking police officer. And you ought reasonably to know that the only engagement you can have with a state witness who has implicated themselves is through Section 204 of the Criminal Procedure Act or Section 105 capital A of the Criminal Procedure Act. Your comment?
My lord, she had not done any of those yet to implicate herself in any matter, so there was no reason to utilize any of those two sections, my lord, at that stage.
But General, of course those sections hadn't been utilized yet because you hadn't produced a statement. You hadn't used mutual legal assistance to bring her before court and ask her the questions. Do you agree with that?
That is why, my lord, we went to America to ascertain those facts from her in a written statement.
And you chose to ask her the questions in a room without attorneys instead of doing it in a court of law. Correct?
There is no reason to do it in a court of law, my lord. It is a statement from a witness that is being obtained. Not every witness is dragged before court for the police to get a statement from them. That would be absolutely ridiculous, my lord.
I put it to you that someone who is implicated in a crime should have been. Your
I
comment?
disagree, my lord.
That's fine. Okay. Now, yesterday you said that this was a high-profile matter. Do you remember that?
I do, my lord.
What made it so high-profile, General?
The fact that Mr. Ace Magashule was implicated in the matter, my lord.
Yes. Is it fair to say that we know that this matter is S versus Mokesi, but colloquially speaking, it should be S versus Magashule? What's your view on that?
I disagree, my lord. It State versus Mogesi.
Okay. Now, let's go to the transcript. It's Exhibit 11, please. And General, we are going to come back to this affidavit, so don't close it, General, if you don't mind. Just keep it there. You there, General?
I am.
Okay. Let's start at page 1. Now, General, at the beginning, there's this bit about the recording. You testified yesterday that it was your intention to record the meeting, correct?
That is correct, my lord.
And that didn't go to plan on your version. Correct?
That is correct, my lord.
Did you ever get to the bottom of what happened?
No, my lord.
I see. You also said that when the recording device was on, you can't recall if you had a look at the recording device or not to see whether it was recorded.
That is correct, my lord.
Now, Captain Carlitz testified, and he said that he suspected that Ms. Charlotta had also recorded the meeting. But he never testified that she had asked to record the meeting. You say that she had asked, correct?
That is correct, my lord.
And that's not on the transcript, correct?
That is correct, my lord.
Now at the bottom of the page, you introduce yourself. So does Captain Carlitz. And if we turn over to the next page, you say, the reason for our visit today is obviously in regards to Ace Magashule matter, the Ace Magashule matter, the asbestos matter.
That is correct, my lord.
Importantly, you say, you were a prominent figure in the case by being the personal assistant to the then Premier of the Free State. Now, during the course of the investigation, you made statements through Mr. Nkwashu.
That is correct, my lord.
So, General, there again, you were aware that Mr. Nkwashu was Ms. Charlotta's attorney. You confirm it there, correct?
That is correct, my lord.
At the bottom of the page, you talk about the Zondo Commission. Let's go to page 3. Here you say, so at this stage, if you do at any stage, how could I say, implicate yourself in anything? Just want to stop there. We've already agreed that she was already an implicated person at that point, correct?
I disagree, my lord,
Why do you disagree, General?
because we had evidence that she is implicated or she may be implicated, but she was not an implicated person at that stage in terms of being viewed as a suspect or a accused in the matter, but it was merely as a witness.
So she was, let's use terminology that you and I are both comfortable with. She was implicated. There was evidence that implicated her.
That is correct, my lord.
Yes. Then you say, we will obviously then, but at this stage there is no reason for us to warn you in terms of any judge's rules, but if you do incriminate yourself, we will stop you. You see that?
I do, my lord.
Are you familiar with the right against self-incrimination?
I am, my lord.
Do you know that that right doesn't kick in only after you incriminate yourself? You've got a right not to incriminate yourself.
That is so, my lord.
Yes. And then you go into the 204, but you say that wasn't applicable in your view.
That is correct, my lord.
Now let's go to page 6, please. It's line 13. Sorry, it starts at line 11. The prosecuting authority decides whether they are going to use you as a state witness or not. That's you, correct, General?
That is correct, my lord.
And she says, no problem. And the last time I also asked for a copy of the statement from Zondo Commission. I did not get it, but it's okay, we can continue. And then Captain Khaled says, we've got all that for you. You see that?
I see that, my lord.
But you agree it wasn't put in front of her.
No, my lord.
Now, if we go to the next page, page 7. Okay, and sorry, before we go to page 7, let's go back to page 6. You then offer her, General, you say, we have got no, so we can give it to you. You can even mail it to you, and then you can go over it. We have set out 3 days for you. You see that?
That is correct, my lord.
Now the next page you say, we understand you have class today at 1 o'clock. You see that?
I see that, my
How
lord.
did you know that?
I think it was during our discussions, my lord.
That's not borne out by the transcript.
I think I've already indicated there's a lot of things that were discussed that is not on the transcript, my lord.
General, did you not maybe know because of the surveillance by the FBI?
No, my lord, that is a ridiculous comment.
I see. Now, let's go to page 8. I think we've actually canvassed that. Just a moment for me, General. Let's go to page 12, please. 12. Thank you, my lord. Are you there, General?
I am.
Now, at line 10, you see Captain Khaled says, okay, today is 22 October 2021. You see that?
I see that, my lord.
That's an obvious mistake. You agree?
I agree, my lord.
It was September, correct?
That is correct, my lord.
And he says at 8:20,
That is correct, my lord.
meaning that this interview had already started well before that.
That
You
is correct,
arrived.
my lord.
Correct. So it was very early in the morning, General.
I don't think so, my lord. It's only 10 pages prior to this, so. But yes, it was early morning.
I'm talking now in the context of what time you arrived at Ms. Charlotta's house. It seems your estimate was probably more accurate, around 7 or a bit thereafter.
As I indicated, it could have been around that time. I do not have the exact time, my lord.
Okay. Now, yesterday there was the handing in of some invoices. These were exhibits 14.1 and 14.2. A learned friend is making it available. Thank you. Just like to inquire, are those exhibits marked? Thank
They
you.
are.
Thank you. Remember these invoices, General?
I do, my lord.
Yes. Now, you engaged in an investigation. Is that accurate?
I did, my lord.
Yes. When was that, General?
That was last week, my lord. I'm not too sure which date, but I know Friday. I think it was Friday, Thursday. I was in Pretoria for other matters, and I engaged on the request of Advocate Denise.
So last week, because we were told that you were unavailable last week, okay?
That was
so
correct.
you say you were attending to this amidst your other engagements in Pretoria.
That was correct, my lord.
I see. And you said you received a call about the transcript. That's what you said yesterday?
That's correct, my lord.
Who called you?
Advocate Denison.
And what did he say?
He said that there was a transcript of our conversation that was handed into court.
I see. Now I want to show you, so you've got the transcript available. We said we'd clarify this issue of dates. Now, you explained to us that a portion of this transcription business had closed down. You seem to indicate that you were struggling to get information. Is that accurate?
That is correct, my lord.
Yes. Now, if you look at the transcript, at the bottom you'll see a reference. You'll see DSI 346-761 86-55.
I do, my lord.
And then there's a date,
That is correct.
2020-2021.11.22. You see that?
That is correct, my lord.
Now, if you look at up to 186, you'll see that that DSI seems to align with Exhibit 14.2, the invoice number. You see that?
That is correct, my lord.
And you'll also see from the description on the invoice that that relates to urgent typing.
That
You
is
see
co-
that?
that is correct, my lord.
Yes. But if you look at invoice Exhibit 14.1, that has a different DSI number to the one on the transcript. It says 346-76243. You see that?
That is correct, my lord.
It doesn't align with the transcript.
It does not, my lord.
Yet this invoice says urgent typing, Murwari Charlotta interview by the Hawks and FBI.
That is correct, my lord.
Yes. So what I'd like to say to you, and these invoices are dated 13 December 2021 and 14 December 2021. Do you see that?
I see that, my lord.
What I'd like to say to you is these invoices don't correlate with the reference. Well, the invoice that has the description of Ms. Charlotta does not correlate with the description on the transcript. You agree with it?
I agree, my lord.
Yesterday, you were taken to an affidavit. It's Exhibit 14.3. It was all in the context of the invoices and the transcript. I'm not sure if my learned friend has a copy for you. Do you have it, General?
I do have it.
Now, General, you were taken to paragraph 40 of this document. Do you remember that?
I do, my lord.
And the paragraph talks about the audio recording being leaked via the media on 28 November 2021. You see that?
I see it, my lord.
And then it says, could you read 41 into record for us?
The reason why this audio recording is a thorn in the applicant's side is because this interview took place on or about 22 October 2021 and demonstrates that the Hawks attempted to coerce Ms. Charlotta to implicate me, which she clearly refused to do.
Okay. Now I want to properly introduce this document to you because you were taken to that paragraph, but I don't think you were properly taken through what this document is. So let's go to the front page of the document, please. This document is Mr. Makgashule's answering affidavit opposing a striking out application brought by the state in his interlocutory application. Are you aware of that, sir?
My lord, I was not involved with these processes, so I'm not intricately aware of all the processes. I'm aware several processes unfold, but specifically which and when and where, I'm not detailed to it, no, my lord.
And in the preparation that you did before you started testifying yesterday, were you taken through this document?
No, I did not see this statement, my lord, no.
I see. And you'll find the explanation at paragraph 4. Now,
Does that document already form part of what is for reporting?
yes, my lord, it's Exhibit 14.3 that was introduced by the state yesterday.
14.3.
Yes. My apologies, my lord. I'll wait for you to get it in front of you. It's very important.
Yes.
Now, if you look at paragraph 4, it states that this affidavit is in opposition of the state's application to strike out certain paragraphs of my founding and replying affidavits, since the paragraphs concerned are relevant, are not vexatious or scandalous, and certainly do not prejudice the applicant whatsoever. To give you the proper context, and I want to be fair to you, General, I don't want to give you things in a piecemeal basis. I want to, with leave of the court, I want to introduce the replying affidavit where the transcript comes from. My lord, if I could beg leave to hand up a copy of the replying affidavit. Yeah. General, this is Mr. Magashule's replying affidavit in the interlocutory application. If you look at the first page, you'll see his name. And what the state has done is the state has given you in the other document. My apologies, my lord. Could we mark this Exhibit 18?
Yes.
So you've got both the documents in front of you, General.
I do.
Now, when we talk about 14.3, what the state did there is the state said there are averments made in Mr. Magashule's founding and replying affidavits that they believe are irrelevant and shouldn't be there. So they brought an application to strike that out. In other words, for it to be ignored by the court. Mr. Magashule then responded to that in this answering affidavit. So that's the contents. Now you also know...
Not any bearing on the question whether this court has jurisdiction to hear the case of number 17?
It does, my lord. I'm getting there. The court will indulge me. I will get there very quickly.
I'll take your word for it for the moment.
Thank you, my lord. Now, you were contacted by Mr. Donation and you were told about the transcript, correct?
That is correct, my lord.
And were you surprised by the transcript, General?
I was, my lord, because we did not make a transcript. We did not have a transcript, so we were not aware of a transcript.
When did you become aware of the transcript's existence?
When Advocate Donation called me.
Now, the interlocutory application concerning Mr. Magashule was argued on the 22nd of February 2022 before Judge Naidu. Do you remember that?
My lord, I was not part of that, so I cannot recall that, my lord.
General, were you not in court on the day for the argument?
No, my lord.
You were not in court?
I cannot recall. In the High Court, yeah.
Yes.
No, my lord,
Before
I cannot.
Justice Naidu.
No, my lord, I was definitely not here. Definitely not.
Okay, General, I'll come back to that. My instruction is that you were in the courtroom, but we leave that for
Definitely
now.
not, my lord.
General, the paragraphs, let's look at Mr. Magashule's replying affidavit, and I want to get to the point of jurisdiction and the issue of the transcript. The paragraphs that were sought to be struck out of the replying affidavit are paragraphs 7.3. I'd like you to go there. You don't have to read it into record. It's a matter of common cause from the papers. And then, importantly, paragraphs 20 to 26 and 29. Let's go to paragraph 20. Are you there, sir?
I am.
Now, importantly, you'll see 20 to 26 is what the state wanted struck out. But where I specifically want to take you is paragraph 26. Would you read that into record?
Unfortunately for the state, it does not end there. Most significantly, I attach a copy of the transcript of the interview conducted with Ms. Chilota by the Hawks, Brigadier Nico Gerber, in brackets Brigadier Gerber, and Captain Benjamin Carlitz, in brackets Captain Carlitz, in Washington, D.C., United States of America, on the 22nd of October 2021. Almost a year after the state declared her a state witness marked RA1. This recording was released to the media even though I had previously asked for recordings of interviews with Ms. Chilota, which requests were declined.
Yes. Now, General, what I want to put to you is, it's not the case that the state didn't know about the transcript. The state tried to strike out the paragraph of the replying affidavit where the transcript was attached. Your comment?
I cannot comment on that, my lord. I was not part of this process.
Let's go back to the transcript in front of you. You can set this aside for the moment. We were on page 12. We've dealt with the invoice. We've dealt with Exhibit 14.2 already. Now, yesterday you said that you didn't want Ms. Chilota to specifically name Mr. Magashule.
That is correct, my lord.
And you said she wasn't prepared to give any names. Do you remember that?
That is correct, my lord.
Let's go to page 38. Paragraph, line 19, she gives you the name of Mem Maria.
That is correct.
Okay. If we go to the next page, page 39, line 15, 14.
The transcript.
Yes, my lord, my apologies. Yes, the transcript, annexure 11.
I know which annexure it is. I just don't know to which document you are referring when you say page 38.
My apologies, my lord.
Because last we dealt with Exhibit 18.
Yes, my apologies. We've moved on from there, my lord, and I've taken the witness to Exhibit 11. My apologies.
Governor, I see it is almost time to take the tea break.
Yes.
Can I just find out, maybe counsel can assist me? I just noticed that I am not in possession of Exhibit 9. What is Exhibit 9?
My lord, for my assist, it's the very thick file that was initially submitted by the state that was then supplemented by Mema Kapela. It's it doesn't quite all contain in one file after being supplemented. That's why it is split into two files that's before the witness. However, it is that had been attached to the original heads of arguments that were supplemented by the state, submitted by the state, my apologies, and then supplemented by Member Kgwebo.
Because I do not have it.
No, your lordship does. It's the file of all the tabs, A to Z. It was referred to as Exhibit 9.
No, but that is Exhibit 9.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, and I was now inquiring about Exhibit 9, isn't it?
Yes.
That is where the error came in. Thank you. I misunderstood the situation. I'm sitting with that big file in front of me, but it's open, so I don't see the front page of it, and I forgot for the moment that this is Exhibit 9.
My Lord, would you like to take the tea adjournment?
Yes, I think I need it now.
May I ask, sorry for the personal question, are you in a relationship with him? You see that?
I see that.
What has that got to do with the investigation, General?
It's all part of the questioning to get to points that we wanted to establish who is paying for rent and accommodation, how she's sustaining herself in the US, etc., my lord.
And how is that relevant to the criminal investigation?
It is not relevant to the criminal investigation. It was merely a question that was posed during the interview.
Okay. General, Ms. Charlotta was not hostile. You were asking her inappropriate questions. What's your comment to that?
You've alluded to one question that you've picked in the whole transcription. There are others where she was also not forthcoming with any answers and also hostile towards us. Right.
Then let's go through this transcript painstakingly. You knew that Ms. Charlotta was there on a bursary, correct?
That is correct, my lord.
Now, Captain Carlitz testified that he had engaged with the DG of the Free State government concerning Ms. Charlotta's bursary. Were you involved in that?
No, my lord.
Did you attend any meetings with the DG?
No, my lord.
All right, I'll come back to that point. So, one reference you say. Let's proceed. So the next page, well, the bottom of the page, you deal with the emails. Premier at freestatepremier.gov. Do you see that?
I don't see it. Which page?
Page 23. My apologies, the bottom.
Yeah,
Do you see there's reference to an email address?
I do.
It says, Captain Khaled says, what was your official email your official email address during employment at the Premier's office in the Free State? Do you see that?
I see that.
She provides the email address premier@fspremier.gov.za. Do you see that?
I see that.
Now if we go to the next page, you talk about her Gmail email address, correct?
That is correct.
Yes. And she's giving you these answers. There doesn't seem to be any level of hostility at this point. Would you agree with that?
I would agree to that.
Give me a moment. Let's go to page 28. You ask her about the protocol. And it starts the previous page, page 27. You're talking about who brings things to the Premier's attention. You can have a moment and have a look at that and tell me if you agree.
Yes, I agree.
Yes. And then Captain Carlitz at the bottom, he says, did you make a sub-file of that email or did you just forward it to him or was it printed out and put in the folder and said for your attention or something? Was there a basis regarding that? That's with reference to emails, etc. Would you agree?
I would agree.
And then she says, anything that needs his attention, I will print it out for him before we give the Director General in the office. We have the Chief of Staff in the office. If there's anything that I need to discuss with them, I discuss with them first. If there's anything that they can solve, they solve it. Anything that needs the attention of the Premier, then we will try and locate the Premier. You see that?
I see that.
And then later on in the page, towards the bottom, line 18, Captain Khaled says, but in general emails, do you take it directly to him? Ms. Charlotta says, no, not all emails that we received. Captain Khaled says, how do you decide? She says, when I receive emails, it depends on the nature of the email. You see that?
I see that.
So, Ms. Charlotta is explaining the protocol to you. You're trying to get an understanding of how she worked in the office, and it seems that the attention is on the receipt of emails. Would you agree with that?
That is correct.
Yes. Page 29, middle of the page, again, Captain Khalid says, if I understand you correctly, you will receive an email addressed to the email of the Premier. She says, yes, you will go through the contents of the email, correct, and then decide whether it should go to them. She says, yes, or any other relevant person. So far, General, I'm not seeing any hostility in responding to the questions. Do you agree with that?
On these pages you alluded to, no.
You don't see the hostility?
No.
Yes, all right. Then we're on the same page. Page 30. Now we're back to her providing names. Because you'll recall you said you didn't want her to implicate or name Mr. Magashule, but she wasn't giving any names. Do you remember that?
That is correct.
On this page, she provides the name of Miss Janet Kay again. Do you see that?
I see that, my lord.
Now, you said in your testimony that if she provided a name, we would follow it up. Do you remember saying that?
I do, my lord.
So, in your role as providing oversight in this investigation, was Ms. Kay engaged in the investigation?
I do not know if she was engaged, my lord.
Okay. Just a moment for me. Okay, let's go to page 33, please. We have already established that Ms. Charlotta was using the Premier's email address. Do you remember that?
That is correct.
Now on page 33, right at the bottom, line 21, Captain Khalid says, Department, you will CC the Premier as well. Ms. Charlotta responds, preferably he preferred hard copies because he did not have, and then it cuts out. And then Captain Khalid says, oh, hard copies. And then she responds on the next page, the email address is that one that I was using. So what she was saying is, he prefers hard copies. The email address of the Office of the Premier is the one that Ms. Charlotta was using, not the one that Mr. Magashule was using. Do you agree with that?
I agree with that.
Yes. So we would print a hard copy and give it to the protector to say if he's in the car and he's got time to look over this. So he preferred hard copies. That's what Ms. Charlotta says to you.
That is correct, my lord.
So far, still quite cordial, General. Nothing notably hostile. Would you agree?
I agree, my lord.
Let's go to page 35. At the bottom of the page, male speaker, Captain Khalid. Before we continue with the questions, I just want to find out, we've got a gentleman outside. Okay, sorry for that. So that is the break. Apologies, the interruption when someone comes to visit Ms. Charlotta.
Yes, I agree.
And then she comes back, page 36. My apologies. The bottom of page 35, she comes back. From when until when were you employed? Page 36, at the Premier's office. She says, I started working there from 2013. I confirm, I think it's 2013 August. Yes, 2013 to 2019. You see that?
I see that, my lord.
Yes. And then you go into how she came to be appointed. That's page 36 over to page 37. You can have a look at it, General, and confirm that you agree.
I agree, my lord.
On page 38. And I think we've touched on this name before, but in the middle of the page she says it's Madam Maria.
That is correct.
Yes, so that's a further name that she provided.
That's correct.
Yes. And then you go to the next page, 39. Again, you'll see the name of Miss Kay.
I
And
do,
Miss-
my lord.
And Mem Maria. You see that?
I see it, my lord.
Yes. Okay, and page 39 over to page 40. Still very cordial, General.
It's true, my lord.
Yes. And at any point, General, if I'm paging too fast and you want to bring my attention to something that is hostile, please, you must stop me at any time. Let's go to page 42. At the bottom of the page, you ask her about how she knew Mr. Magashule before her appointment. You see that?
I see that, my lord.
The next page, she says that she worked for Sissy Ntombela until she left the office of the Premier.
That is correct.
Yes. So that's another name she provided, correct?
That is correct, my lord.
Yes. And then I'm not going to take you through any page, every single page. Page 46. You'll see she makes mention of another person, Mem Karia Malamela.
That is correct.
It's a further name she provided, correct?
That is correct.
Now, page 52. Towards the bottom of the page, line 17, you're talking about the diary immediately before that, and then you ask her, is that on your laptop that you used? She says, yes, the weekly program. And then Captain Khalid says, is the same computer that's on the commission mirrored? You see that?
That is correct.
And then, of course, we know that you instructed Captain Khalid to get access to that, correct?
That is correct.
Just a moment for me. Now, where I want to spend a bit of time with you is, and I've read this, General, I've read this transcript many times, and I am struggling to find the hostility. But let's look at page 65, for example. Are you there, General?
I am.
Now, here, Captain Khalid says, at the top of the page, sorry, to give you context, if you could just go the page before, page 64. Are you there?
I am.
The bottom of page 64, Captain Khalid, are you aware of, okay, you are aware of the emails that you sent on behalf of the Premier. You see that?
I do.
She says to who? Next page, 65. For different companies, contractors for donations. For the business people. Captain Khalid's, yeah. Mr. Lotta, for school funds. Captain Khalid's, yeah, stuff like that. Mr. Lotta, yes, I'm aware. Captain Khalid's. Now, were there any SARS certificates issued to those companies for tax purposes? General, how would Mr. Lotta know the answer to this question? She doesn't work for those companies. Would you agree?
I would agree.
Yes, so it's not that Ms. Charlotta was hostile, I'll put it to you again. She was being asked inappropriate questions. Your comment?
I disagree.
Okay. Now, let's get to the office of the Premier. Page 66, please. Are you there?
I am.
The top of the page, few lines down, Captain Khalid says, you sent these emails on instruction of Mr. Magashule. You see that?
That is correct.
She says the office of the Premier. So what's going on there is Captain Khalid wants her to name Mr. Magashule. Do you agree?
I disagree. It was a question that posed, did you send the emails on instruction of Mr. Magashule? She could have said no and given an explanation. Her answer is just the office of the Premier. So
Okay.
she's evading a direct answer to a question that was posed to her, my Lord.
Okay, so in your view, she's evading the question.
That is correct, my Lord.
I see. Okay. Then, yes, Captain Carlos, but obviously if you say the office of the Premier, you have to be specific now. Then you come in. Brigadier Gerber, there should be a person. Captain Carlos, yeah. Brigadier Gerber, the office cannot. Ms. Charlotta, the office of the Premier would be us. When we are asking people who come to the office of the Premier, to me it is the office of the Premier who is assisting them, right? Okay? Captain Carlos says, okay, but you must remember we cannot talk to an organization. The Premier's office is we have to put it to a person. You understand? Now, General, what I'm putting to you is the person you wanted to attach this to was none other than Mr. Magashule.
That is not correct, my Lord,
Okay?
because she refers to us. The office of the Premier would be us. Who is us? There's a lot of us here today as well, but who is the us?
Yes. Fortunately, the transcript goes on. Let's continue. The next page, well, at the bottom of the page. So when you send these mails saying, excuse me, in the mails on request of the Premier, you are requesting a donation, say, for studies for this and this person. She says, okay then, and there's indistinct. Captain Carlitz, do you mean the Premier told you to write an email to business saying, listen, I'm asking for donations for this and this students and this university? Ms. Charlotta, okay, that is not how I do it. Captain Carlitz, okay. What I do was request from the office of the Premier, because the people who would ask for help would come to the office of the Premier. So me handling it, I was handling it as the office of the Premier. I was not saying specifically the Premier, you must help this person. Because even when I asked, it was a request, not a directive, that you must help these people. Then, if you look at the bottom of the page, Captain Carlos then says, so you are basically telling me you use your own initiative to see who is in need and then request assistance. And she says, no, it's not my own initiative. And the next page, 63, Captain Carlitz says, in the middle of the page, are you saying that you took those decisions by yourself to approach these companies and ask them for money? And she says, no, few lines down. So, General, what this exchange tells us is yourself and Captain Carlitz put Ms. Charlotta in a position where she had to implicate herself or she had to implicate Mr. Magashule. What is your comment?
I disagree, my Lord. We wanted an answer from her, either whoever was implicated according to her or who was involved in that, and therefrom we would have taken it further in terms of the next question. But we never received any definite answer on any of our questions that we asked her, and it was always an evasive way of answering a question.
General, other than the one instance that you've identified, Ms. Charlotta was not evasive in a response to you, and in any event, that was your opinion that she was evasive. Your comment?
I disagree, my Lord. It was my observation that she was evasive.
That's fine. Now, let's look at Annexure HI again. You can please put that to the side. It's part of Exhibit 9. Are you there, General?
Yes.
So you'll recall that this was Captain Carlitz's affidavit in the Constitutional Court,
That's correct, my Lord.
where you gave a confirmatory affidavit.
That's correct, my Lord.
And basically, this was yours and Captain Carlitz's version under oath before the Constitutional Court.
That's correct, my Lord.
Yes. Now let's go to paragraph 133 of this affidavit. Could you read it into record for us, please?
The fact that Ms. Charlotta did not attribute certain instructions to her former boss had the result that she was then treated as a suspect in relation to some of the charges Mr. Magashule, her former boss, was facing.
Yes. Now, that's your version under oath. You agree with me?
That's correct, my lord.
Yes. So she wouldn't implicate Mr. Magashule and therefore she became a suspect, correct?
That is not correct, my lord.
It's not correct. Okay, she didn't attribute certain instructions to Mr. Magashule and therefore she was treated as a suspect.
Because there was evidence in the case dockets. If she could not attribute it to someone, either Mr. Magashule or who, and the evidence was that she handled the emails, that is the evidence that she was involved in sending the emails and then becoming part of being viewed as a suspect.
Yes. And you went there to the interview well knowing that there was this evidence, correct?
That is correct, my lord.
Her being evasive is irreconcilable, evasive and hostile, is irreconcilable with how the transcript ends on 22 September 2022. You're welcome to go back there. My apologies for taking you up and down. It's from page 76. My apologies, my lord. Are you there, General?
I am.
Top of the page. In fact, line 9. No, we are finished, says Captain Karlitz. This is my last question. It's my last question. Ms. Charlotta, no problem. Captain Karlitz, I then provide the details of students as well as institutions. There they go, ma'am. Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Charlotta, no problem. Captain Karlitz, there will be a few more, but for now. Brigadier Gerber, can we just then come to an agreement on how we are going to do tomorrow? You see that? She says tomorrow. Then you say, General, will you give us a call? Or we can give you a call to establish later this afternoon. She says, Brigadier Gerber, whether it will be convenient for you to come to Washington earlier tomorrow than you normally do. This is what I'm thinking. Middle of the page, laughter. Is that all? Is that all you can offer? Yeah, you say food as well if you want. Female speaker, the room might be a little warmer too. Okay, no problem. And then the next page continues. I'm not going to read all of it to you, but you can take your time, General. This meeting ends very cordially. There's nothing hostile. There's nothing evasive. It ends on a cordial note. Do you agree with that?
I do agree with that, my lord.
Yes. And there isn't anything, we've already established that, but it doesn't end with anything about contact your attorneys, on the transcript at least, correct?
On the transcript it does not, my lord.
So we had finished with annexure HI for the moment. Just a moment for me, General. Yes. We're going to go to the exhibits file. That's the main exhibits file, not exhibit 9. And we're going to be going to exhibit 13.10. learned friend, please. 10. Thank you. It's 10 and I believe 11. You have that in front of you?
I do.
General, just as before we get into this, out of interest, in the course of you being involved in the Constitutional Court extradition matter, you wouldn't know one way or the other whether the Minister of International Affairs was approached to approve Ms. Chilota's extradition, would you?
No, I would not know that, my lord.
Now, these emails were introduced at the previous occasion, and this was in the context of establishing Ms. Chilota's whereabouts with the FBI. And you'll see at 13.10, there's mention of a second location and the need to conduct surveillance. You'll recall earlier we spoke about surveillance?
That's correct.
Yes, so she was indeed under surveillance. Can you see that?
I do not know, my lord. I was not CC'd into this email, so I cannot comment on that, my lord.
Captain Karlitz was, and wouldn't he have updated you?
Not
in your
necessarily on
reports?
everything, my lord, no.
I see. So he never updated you that Ms. Chilota was under surveillance?
Not that I can recall, my lord.
I see. Now I'd like you to go to the next page. You'll see there's an email from Mr. Donation, the 4th of March, 2024. Could you read that email into record for us?
Which one are we talking about? 13.10, 13.11?
Sorry, we're still on 13.10, General. It's the email of 4 March 2024.
Okay, I have it.
And it's from Mr. Donation to a Maria Lerner
That's
at
correct.
the US DOJ.
That's correct, I
Could you
have
read
it.
the email into record for us, please?
Good day, Maria. We have received the following letter from the attorneys of accused 3, Saudi, this morning. It is important to note that although they have different instructing attorneys, accused 3, Saudi, and accused 13, Magashule, share the same advocate. Paragraphs 2.5 and 8 of the letter refer to the extradition of Chilota. I shall appreciate it if you can give an indication of where you are in the process at this time. I, however, do not, I think it's maybe intend to disclose your process and timeline to the defense. We only need the info to prepare for the 15th of April. Your colleague indicated that Chilota would at least be before court before the 15th, although not necessarily extradited. If that is still the case, we intend to request a postponement until Chilota is finally extradited. The ratio being that it would be nonsensical to continue with the trial when one of the accused is before a court in the US awaiting extradition. Clearly, the defense intends to potentially use anything to ask for a remand and blame the prosecution, whether it is because of Chilota or the, in brackets, late supplement of information. It is important to note that Magashule has a new political party, and the very important election in SA is on the 29th of May. Right in the middle of the trial. It is our view that he will therefore try anything to have the trial postponed, but does not want to be the one requesting the postponement. We shall appreciate if you could reply ASAP. Thank you.
So, General, you'll recall earlier you said this has got nothing to do with politics, correct?
That is correct, my lord.
And you would agree with me that Mr. Magashule's political party and the election has got nothing to do with Ms. Chilota's extradition.
I agree, my lord.
Yes. And what you must also agree with is if the state was going to ask for postponement anyway, then the election is immaterial. Correct?
I don't know if the state was going to ask for postponement, my lord. That the prosecutor would have known. It was not communicated with myself.
It's here in the email. Let's read it again. I'll give you the line. Just give me a moment. It's the second last paragraph. If that is still the case, we intend to request a postponement. That's the state, that's Mr. Donation. Do you see that?
I see that, my lord.
Yes, so then the election is immaterial. General, you agree?
That is correct, my lord.
Yes. My lord, if I could just have a few minutes to chat with the senior. Thank you. No, my lord, that's fine. I've got two more questions. Thank you. General, my apologies. Earlier I referred to the Minister of whether you were aware of whether the Minister of National Relations played a role in the extradition. I meant to say the Minister of Justice. Did your answer change at all?
No, my lord, I was not aware of this process, my lord.
General, I want to go back to the date of 22 February 2022. You recall, I put it to you that you were in court during the argument of the interlocutory application for justice. Do you remember that? Now, we've had a look at the video footage of the 22nd of February 2022, and it demonstrates that you were indeed in the courtroom. Are you in a position?
If it's on the video, my lord, I don't know if it is the 22nd they were looking at. Once again, it's something I haven't seen, so I can't comment. But as far as knowledge go, I was, if I was here, I had to look into my diary to see where I was on that specific day.
That's fine. Thank you, General. Thank you. Thank you, my lord.
My lord, my apologies. My lord, I'm thinking of during the Major General's testimony in relation to the documents that were placed before Ms. Schroeder. Could I ask permission to briefly reopen our cross-examinations to cross-examine the General on that question before the re-examination takes place? Because I should think that my learned colleagues would like to re-examine him on that particular point.
Yes, go ahead.
General, it's with regard to what was stated in relation to paragraph 21 under tab HI. That would be the Constitutional Court's affidavit by Captain Khalid. Tab HI, page 7, paragraph 21. Now, your evidence before Ms. Govender was that it cannot be true that she was shown various documents, as both Captain Khalid's evidence as well as your examination, evidence under examination, was that she was never shown such documents. Is that correct?
That is correct, my lord.
Now, the definitive answer that we would like for purposes of this court is that was Captain Khalid's lying to the Constitutional Court, or was Captain Khalid's and yourself lying to this court as to whether or not she was shown documents? Because the two cannot be true to the same.
That is improper. These questions would have had to have been put to Captain Collins. It is an inappropriate forum to attempt to ask this witness of that particular paragraph with regards to the lying to the Constitutional Court. My lord, this witness can answer this further.
The witness testified, my lord, that this cannot be true. If it cannot be true, then it is a lie. The two cannot be. The witness testified that this paragraph before the Constitutional Court cannot be true, based on what Captain Collins and himself testified on the fact that they did not show him the documents. My question is, if it cannot be true, can it reasonably be said that this was in fact a lie to the Constitutional Court? The question is simple.
So you are attributing the lie also to this witness?
He confirmed, he submitted a confirmatory affidavit to this particular affidavit, my lord. The affidavit says we put documents before Ms. Choloda that she ought to have had knowledge of. He confirmed in his confirmatory affidavit that he has read this and agrees that this is true and correct. His evidence now is that it was not correct what Captain Collins had in this affidavit, and that instead they did not put documents before Ms. Choloda. My question is, if he says this is not true, is he saying that this was a lie on the part of Captain Khalid to the Constitutional Court? Agree or not agree?
Well, that is why I'm asking you. He made a confirmatory affidavit.
Yes.
So your question should then be, was it a lie on the part of Captain Collins and you, General Pepper, by saying that documents were shown to him?
Yes, my lord. That is the question, General Khyber. Was it a lie on your part and Captain Collins to the Constitutional Court? Or was it a lie on your part and Captain Collins' part to this court?
My lord, it's a difficult question to answer. I won't say it's a lie, but I don't know how to explain it in terms of that this is in the statement, but I know for a fact that there was no documents provided to her in terms of the emails, etc., when we were in the US.
Can I ask you this? Does it show or does it transpire transcript of your interview with Mr. Loubser in the USA that certain documents were dealt with in the interview? Does it show in the transcript?
My lord, I don't think it shows there. What I testified on, Captain Carlitz had a file with him. He had prepared questions and documents, so there were documents available, but we did not get to the process of handing her a specific document to say, what is your comment on this document? So that there were documents, I don't know if he made something out of that bundle, but there was nothing specific that was handed to her to say this.
Was that you exercised oversight over Captain Khalid, correct?
That's correct.
Now, if Captain Khalid can, if we accept, lie to the Constitutional Court, how can we be sure that he did not lie to U.S. authorities?
My lord, I won't agree that Captain Carlitz lied. I know him as a man with integrity, a good investigator, honest person, and once again I stipulate that he never issued documents directly to the U.S. Everything went through the channel in terms of the prosecution to DOCO, to whoever was in the process for extradition.
That will be all, my lord.
Are you ready for the examination?
My lord, I approach, we have no reason.
Thank you, my lord.
My lord, the state also intends calling no further witnesses that is evidence for the trial and the trial. My lord, if I may just ask that my exhibit files are handed back to you. Especially Exhibit 9, before it disappears into the Bermuda Triangle, my lord.
Ms. Macapello, the state is not presenting any further evidence in the trial within the trial. Are you presenting any evidence?
My lord, we are not presenting any witnesses. We are of the view that the state has failed to prove beyond reasonable doubt that this court even with balance of probabilities. And on that fact, we believe that there's nothing that we could bring before the court that could prove more than they have proven that the court lacks jurisdiction.
you.
Thank you, my lord.
Well, then we come to the stage where closing arguments will be heard by the court.
Indeed, my lord.
Are you ready to proceed with that?
My lord, if we may ask the court's indulgence, and I believe my learned colleague would also like to prepare for the same, we will be ready by Monday to address the court.
What is it today?
It's Thursday, my lord. If we allow the indulgence of tomorrow as well as the weekend, that we can be prepared to address the court tonight.
Will you be ready by Monday, Ms.
I will be ready,
Makapela?
my lord.
I think it is now the job of Ms. Makapela.
Indeed, so thank you, my lord.
And of course, we can take into regard what came out of the cross-examination which was done by Mr. Hodes and Ms. Governor.
Indeed, so thank you, my lord.
Thank you.
Could I just quickly ask, my lord, regarding the heads of argument, would those also be filed on Monday? The oral submissions that will follow our oral
Well, I did not say that I require heads of argument, but of course the parties are welcome to present the court with heads of argument if they feel that would advance their cases, respective cases. So if there is a request for heads of argument to be prepared and handed in, then we will have also to make provision for that. Do you intend preparing heads of argument?
Yes, my lord. We've been preparing our heads of argument as the days have been going, and so we think it would be beneficial to the court to submit that.
Thank you. And to stay?
Indeed, so my lord, we will be ready to do the same.
Yes. When do you think you will be... Let me ask Ms. Makapela first. When do you think you will be ready to hand in your heads of argument
On
to
the
this
same
court?
Monday, my lord.
On Monday?
Yes, my lord.
And to stay?
Indeed, so my lord, we will also be ready on Monday.
So heads of argument will be handed in by both sides, and at the same time you will
Lord, as a point of clarification, and I'm in respectful agreement with your Lordship, I don't believe that we have a right to argue the jurisdiction of Mr. Lotter. The evidence elicited under cross-examination, as I made clear from the outset, my Lord, was restricted to that issue that impacted on the explanation provided by my respective clients, and I didn't take it further than that. So I do respectfully agree with your Lordship. Additionally, my Lord, I would request, I know your Lordship remain with it, but I just out of respect present to continue with the matter, but I'm in respectful agreement with everything that's been submitted thus far, my Lord.
yes, I have no problem with that.
Thank you. Thank you, my Lord.
Monday, 26 May 2025 at 9:30 in the morning. The reason for the standing down is to allow the state as well as the legal representatives of the head of argument and to in the trial on that day. Court will now adjourn.
Ja.